welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving deep into your research on the endocannabinoid system.
The ECS.
Hey.
The ECS.
It looks like you're really focused on how this system,
This incredible system.
this incredible system helps our bodies maintain balance.
Homeostasis.
Exactly, homeostasis across the nervous, immune, and endocrine systems.
And you even want to untangle those complex signaling pathways.
We'll try to, at least.
Oh, yeah. Get ready for some serious aha moments as we explore this fascinating world of cannabinoids.
It's a truly remarkable system.
It really is.
Isn't it? It's like the conductor of an orchestra.
Oh, I like that.
Ensuring that all the different sections are playing in harmony.
That's a great analogy. And it seems like the ECS is involved in so many different processes.
Yeah.
Everything from regulating mood and pain to controlling inflammation and even influencing our metabolism. It's almost hard to believe that one system can have such a widespread impact.
Well, think about it this way. Our bodies are constantly striving for balance.
Okay. Whether it's adjusting to changes in temperature, fighting off infections, or managing our energy levels, it's all about maintaining a stable internal environment. And the ECS is a key player in orchestrating that balance.
So it's like the ECS is constantly monitoring and adjusting things behind the scenes to keep everything running smoothly.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that this system uses our body's own cannabis-like molecules called endocannabinoids to do so. It's like our bodies have their own internal pharmacy of cannabinoids.
That's incredible. I remember reading about Dr. Machoulam's groundbreaking work in the 1990s.
Yes.
Where his lab identified these endocannabinoids, anandamide and 2-AG.
Yeah.
It must have been a truly revolutionary discovery.
Absolutely. It was. It opened up a whole new field of study and has paved the way for countless other discoveries about the ECS and its potential therapeutic applications.
So let's break down how this intricate system actually works. You mentioned the nervous, immune, and endocrine systems.
Right.
Let's start with the nervous system. What role does the ECS play in keeping our nerves in check?
Well, the ECS is deeply involved in modulating neuronal activity, which means it influences how our nerves communicate with each other.
Okay.
This impacts everything from mood and pain perception to memory and motor control.
Now, in your research, you specifically mentioned wanting to explore the ECS's role in conditions like dystonia.
Yes.
Can you tell me more about that?
Certainly, dystonia is a neurological movement disorder that causes involuntary muscle contractions and spasms.
Wow.
It can be incredibly debilitating. And there's growing evidence suggesting that the ECS might play a role in both the development and potential treatment of dystonia.
I see. So is the idea that by targeting the ECS, we might be able to develop new therapies for dystonia and other movement disorders?
Precisely. Some studies have shown that certain cannabinoids can actually improve motor control in individuals with dystonia.
Interesting.
And this makes sense when you consider that CB1 receptors, one of the main types of cannabinoid receptors, are highly concentrated in areas of the brain involved in movement control.
That's fascinating. So by modulating the activity of these CB1 receptors, we might be able to influence the neural pathways involved in these conditions.
Exactly. It's like fine-tuning the signals being sent between nerve cells.
To restore a more balanced...
To restore a more balanced state of activity. And it's not just dystonia. The ECS is also involved in the neurocircuitry associated with emesis.
Emesis.
Which is the medical term for vomiting. This is why certain cannabinoids are effective in managing nausea.
Right. It seems like the ECS has its fingers in so many different pies.
It does.
When it comes to the nervous system.
Many pies.
So how does this intricate system play a role in our immune system?
Okay.
Which is all about protecting us from invaders.
Well, think of the immune system as a complex army ready to defend the body against any attack.
All right.
But sometimes this army can become a little overzealous, leading
to
to excessive inflammation and even attacking the body's own tissues.
Oh, no.
That's where the ECS comes in. It acts like a peacekeeper, helping to regulate the immune response and prevent this overactivation.
So it's like the ECS is ensuring that the immune system's response is appropriate and measured.
Yes.
Preventing it from going overboard and causing collateral damage.
That's a great way to put it. This immunomodulatory role of the ECS has huge implications for conditions like inflammatory bowel disease and multiple sclerosis.
Wow.
Both of which involve dysregulated immune responses and chronic inflammation.
That makes sense. By fine-tuning the immune response, the ECS could potentially help manage the inflammation associated with these conditions and even prevent further damage.
Exactly. And research is ongoing to explore how we can harness the power of the ECS to develop new therapies for these and other inflammatory conditions.
It's incredible how the ECS can act as both a conductor and a peacekeeper.
It is.
Keeping both the nervous and immune systems in balance. So what about the endocrine system? How does the ECS influence our hormones and metabolism?
Well, the ECS plays a crucial role in regulating energy balance and metabolism.
All right.
Essentially, how our bodies process and utilize energy. When the ECS is functioning properly, it helps keep our metabolism humming along smoothly, ensuring that we're effectively using the energy we consume.
But what happens when this delicate balance is disrupted? I'm guessing that's when we start to see problems like metabolic disorders.
You're absolutely right. Dysregulation of the ECS can contribute to various metabolic disorders, including obesity and type 2 diabetes. And this is where your research gets really interesting. You've provided some studies that delve into how cannabinoids can actually influence energy metabolism control, suggesting that targeting the ECS might hold therapeutic potential for these conditions as well.
That's pretty amazing. So in some cases, manipulating the ECS with cannabinoids could potentially help regulate these metabolic processes.
Yes.
And even address underlying imbalances.
It's certainly an area of active research, and there's a growing body of evidence pointing in that direction.
Yeah.
But as with everything related to the ECS, it's a complex system with many intricate pathways and interactions. We're still unraveling all the details.
So just to recap, we've got this incredible system, the ECS acting as a master regulator, influencing these three major systems, nervous, immune, and endocrine, to maintain homeostasis. It's like a delicate dance with the ECS constantly making adjustments to keep everything in sync.
That's a perfect analogy. And to truly appreciate the elegance of this dance, we need to delve deeper into the molecular level, into the actual signaling pathways that make it all happen.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready to explore the intricate world of cannabinoid signaling?
Absolutely. Let's zoom in and see how these molecular players orchestrate the magic of the ECS.
All right. Let's explore the intricate world of cannabinoid signaling.
Okay.
At the heart of this system are cannabinoid receptors.
Oh, yeah. The receptor.
These tiny docking stations on the surface of cells.
So it's like each cell has these little receptors waiting for the right cannabinoid to come along.
Exactly.
And activate them.
Precisely.
And the two main receptors we're focusing on today are CB1 and CB2.
Okay.
These receptors are like locks.
And the cannabinoids are like keys, each fitting into a specific lock to unlock a specific cellular response.
That's a helpful way to visualize it.
Yeah.
So where do these CB1 and CB2 receptors hang out in the body?
Well, they're found throughout the body,
Right.
but their distribution varies. CB1 receptors are particularly abundant in the brain and central nervous system.
Makes sense.
Which makes sense considering the ECS's role in regulating things like mood, pain, and movement. CB2 receptors, on the other hand, are more concentrated in immune cells and tissues, reflecting their role in modulating the immune response.
Okay, so different locations, different roles.
Yeah.
But how does the actual signaling process work?
Yeah.
What happens when a cannabinoid binds to one of these receptors?
Great question. That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Let's imagine anandamide, one of the body's own endocannabinoids, floating around and encountering a CB1 receptor on a nerve cell.
Okay, I'm picturing it. The anandamide bumps into the CB1 receptor.
Yes.
Then what?
When anandamide binds to that CB1 receptor, it's like flipping a switch.
Sure.
The receptor undergoes a conformational change.
Conformational change.
Basically, it changes shape.
So the receptor actually physically changes when the cannabinoid binds to it.
Exactly. This shape-shifting is crucial because it allows the receptor to interact with another protein inside the cell called a G protein.
Okay. A G protein.
Think of the G protein as a messenger ready to relay the signal from the receptor to other parts of the cell.
Ah, so it's like a relay race. The cannabinoid passes the baton to the receptor, which then passes it to the G protein.
That's a great analogy. Now, this G protein is a bit complex.
Okay.
It's made up of different subunits.
Okay.
When the receptor activates the G protein, it triggers a process called GTP-GDP exchange.
GTP-GDP exchange.
Without getting too bogged down in the details.
Yeah.
This exchange basically energizes the G protein, preparing it to carry the signal forward.
Okay, so the G protein gets energized?
Yes.
Then what?
Once energized, the G protein subunits detach from each other and go on to interact with various other molecules within the cell, triggering a cascade of events.
Oh.
These events ultimately lead to changes in cellular activity, which contribute to the overall effects of the cannabinoid.
Wow. It's like a domino effect.
Right.
One event triggers another, leading to a whole cascade of changes within the cell.
Yes.
It's amazing how such a tiny molecule can have such a profound impact.
It is truly remarkable. Now, remember those PhD-level research papers you shared on cannabinoid signaling?
Yes.
We can delve into some of those details if you're interested.
Absolutely. I'm particularly curious about those second messenger pathways and the role of MAPK pathways.
Okay.
They sound pretty complex, but I'm up for the challenge.
All right. Let's dive in. So those G protein subunits we talked about,
Yeah.
they don't just float around aimlessly. They interact with specific enzymes and signaling molecules within the cell, triggering what we call second messenger pathways.
Second messenger pathways.
These pathways amplify the original signal from the receptor and ultimately lead to a variety of cellular responses.
So if the G protein is the messenger, the second messenger pathways are like the messenger's assistants spreading the word even further.
Precisely. Think of it like a chain of command. The cannabinoid binds to the receptor, activating the G protein, which then sets off a chain reaction through these second messenger pathways.
Okay, I'm following so far.
Good.
What are some examples of these second messenger pathways, and how do they relate to the ECS?
Well, one key pathway involves an enzyme called adenyl cyclase, which produces a molecule called cyclic AMP, or CAMP for short. CAMP acts as a second messenger, triggering a cascade of events that can ultimately influence gene expression, protein synthesis, and other cellular processes.
So CAMP is like a molecular messenger carrying instructions from the receptor to other parts of the cell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another important pathway involves an enzyme called phospholipase C, or PLC. When activated, PLC breaks down a specific lipid in the cell membrane, generating two more second messengers.
Oh, wow.
Diacylglycerol, DAG, and inositol terphosphate, IP3.
Wow, so many messengers.
I know, right?
What do these DAG and IP3 messengers do?
They have important roles in regulating things like calcium levels within the cell.
Okay, calcium.
Which can influence a wide range of cellular processes. For example, calcium plays a role in muscle contraction, neurotransmitter release, and even cell death.
So by influencing calcium levels, the ECS can indirectly control a whole host of cellular functions.
Now, you also mentioned MAPK pathways.
Yes, MAPK pathways.
These pathways are involved in cell growth differentiation and survival, and they can be influenced by cannabinoids as well.
MAPK pathways. I remember reading about them in those research papers. Can you remind me how they fit into the bigger picture of cannabinoid signaling?
Certainly, MATK stands for mitogen-activated protein kinase.
Okay.
These pathways are like signaling highways within the cell.
Okay.
Relaying information from the cell surface to the nucleus where DNA is housed.
So these pathways are carrying signals from the cannabinoid receptors all the way to the control center of the cell.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. And there are different types of MBK pathways, each with its own specific roles. Some of the key players in these pathways include ERKJNK and P38.
ERKJNK and P38.
These proteins are like molecular switches that can be turned on or off by various signals, including those from cannabinoid receptors.
Okay, so these ERKJNK and P38 proteins are like the traffic lights on those signaling highways.
Yes.
Controlling the flow of information within the cell.
That's a great analogy. And depending on which pathways are activated and which traffic lights are turned on or off, the cell can respond in different ways. For example, activation of certain MEPK pathways might promote cell survival, while activation of others might lead to programmed cell death.
Wow. It's all starting to connect now.
Yeah.
We've got these cannabinoids binding to receptors, triggering G proteins, activating second messenger pathways, and ultimately influencing gene expression and other cellular functions through MAPK pathways. It's like a beautifully orchestrated symphony of molecular events.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that this is a simplified overview.
Okay.
The actual signaling pathways are much more complex, with intricate feedback loops and crosstalk between different pathways.
It's incredible to think about all these molecular events happening within our cells,
It is.
all orchestrated by this fascinating endocannabinoid system.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed by all the details.
I understand.
Is there a way to simplify this and understand the key takeaways?
Absolutely. The key takeaway is that the ECS is a remarkably versatile system capable of fine-tuning a wide range of cellular processes to maintain homeostasis.
Right.
And while the molecular details can be complex, the fundamental principle is simple.
Okay.
Cannabinoids act as messengers, binding to receptors and triggering a cascade of events that ultimately influence how our cells behave.
That's helpful. Like the ECS is the body's master conductor, ensuring that all the different sections of the orchestra are playing in harmony.
Yes.
And now we're starting to understand how those musical notes are actually transmitted and interpreted at the cellular level.
That's a perfect way to put it. And as we continue to explore the ECS, we're discovering even more about its intricate mechanisms and potential therapeutic applications.
Speaking of exploration, you mentioned earlier that there's more to this story than just CB1 and CB2 receptors.
Yeah.
You mentioned non-classical receptors. What's that all about?
Well, for a long time, we thought CB1 and CB2 were the only receptors cannabinoids could bind to.
Right.
But as research has progressed,
Uh-huh.
we've discovered that cannabinoids can actually interact with other receptors beyond these two main players.
Oh, wow.
That's what we refer to as non-classical cannabinoid receptors.
So it's like we've found new characters in the ECS play.
Exactly. These non-classical receptors are still being characterized, but they're adding a whole new layer of complexity and intrigue
Oh, wow.
to our understanding of the ECS.
Okay.
It's like we've uncovered a secret passageway in a familiar house.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
So what do we know about these mysterious new receptors so far?
Well, one example is a receptor called GPR55.
GPR55.
It's been shown to be activated by certain cannabinoids, and it seems to be involved in a variety of processes, from regulating blood pressure to modulating bone growth.
Wow, so GPR55 is like a multitasker in the ECS.
Precisely. And then there's the TRPV1 receptor,
TRPV1?
which is involved in sensing heat and pain.
Yeah.
Some cannabinoids can activate TRPV1, which might contribute to their pain-relieving effects.
So these non-classical receptors are adding another layer of complexity to the ECS.
Yeah.
It's as though the ECS is even more widespread and influential than we initially realized.
That's right. And this just goes to show how much we still have to learn about this remarkable system.
Right.
It's like a vast, uncharted territory full of potential for scientific discovery and therapeutic innovation.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us? Why should we care about the non-classical receptors?
Well, understanding how cannabinoids interact with these new receptors could lead to the development of more targeted therapies.
Okay.
For instance, if we can find a way to selectively activate or block specific receptors,
Right.
we might be able to treat a wide range of conditions with fewer side effects.
That's pretty exciting. It sounds like the ECS is holding a lot of promise for the future of medicine.
It certainly is. And as research continues to unravel the mysteries of the ECS, we're bound to see even more innovative therapeutic applications emerge.
Where you've given us a lot to think about today. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this deep dive into the ECS?
I think if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Okay.
it's important to remember that the ECS is a dynamic system. It's constantly responding to changes in our internal and external environment.
So many factors.
Yeah, so factors like diet, exercise, stress levels, and even exposure to environmental toxins can all impact how the ECS functions.
That's a great point. So taking care of our overall health can also help support a healthy ECS.
Absolutely. And as you continue to explore the fascinating world of endocannabinoids,
Right.
keep an eye out for research on those intriguing new receptors beyond CB1 and CB2.
Right.
There's a whole lot more to learn about this amazing system.
This has been an incredible deep dive into the ECS and how it impacts those three major systems. Hopefully this has helped pull out the most important info from your research. It seems there's a whole lot more to learn about the amazing world of endocannabinoids.